Good morning, good morning. It is Friday, the 26th of April, 2024. I'm Graham Hughes. Welcome to Morning Brew. I've got my Morning Brew right here. It's a bit hot. So did anyone see Question Time last night, or did anyone see the highlights, or should I say lowlights from Question Time last night? Let me just be the first, probably not the first, let me just be one of the many people who just want to say out loud, oh my God! Chris Philps, an idiot's idea of an idiot. No, an idiot's idea of just an idiot. Just an idiot. And I mentioned this the other day. I talked about the blithe cruelty of the Tory party. So I said, well, no, it's targeted. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. But there's also this whole point about the fact that the Tories have spent the last 2 years of their parliamentary time obsessing over this so-called deterrent to send people to Rwanda. And Chris Philp proved yesterday, beyond all reasonable doubt, that these people, these 300-odd Tory MPs, don't even know where Rwanda is. They don't know. Oh my God. Wow. They are so lazy, so feckless, that in 2 years, they can't be arsed picking up an atlas. Well, I don't know, looking on Google Maps. Where is Rwanda actually? Oh, there it is, in the middle of the continent of Africa. Nestled in between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Tanzania, and Uganda to the north and Burundi to the south. It's not hard. It's there on the map. And this guy didn't even know that Congo was a separate country. He's going to have his mind blown when he finds out there are actually two Congos. The Democratic Republic of Congo, which is what the guy in the panel, guy in the audience was asking about. And there's also the Republic of Congo. Would you like a little bit of a history lesson? Because this is very pertinent to what's going on right now. And the fact that that question was so good because the guy in the audience asked this question. He said, my family were coming from Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's in the east of the country, right next to the border with Rwanda. And there's a war going on right now. There is a war happening around Goma to do with the minerals that are found there. It's called a mineral war. It's happening. There's a particular mineral called coltan, which people want because it goes in all electronics. Forget about lithium for a moment. The big one is coltan. And the only place on the planet, as far as I'm aware, where it exists in significant quantities is around Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So everyone wants a piece of that, obviously. Now, I went to see a movie called Civil War the other day. It wasn't the Captain America Civil War. It was Alex Garland's latest movie. Alex Garland was the writer of The Beach and The Tesseract. He also wrote 28 Days Later, the zombie film, and the awesome Annihilation, the film Annihilation, which is very, very good. I really recommend it. And also the excellent Ex Machina, which actually won the Oscar for Best Special Effects, winning out over Mad Max Thunder Road, I think. Someone look that up. Anyway, I went to see Civil War. How are you tying a bloody popcorn movie in with Congo? Well, I'll tell you how. Right. I didn't like Civil War. It came out and I went to see it with Ben Chambers, who runs the 16 Million Rising radio show, which I really recommend. Look it up. And he loved it. He thought it was great. I thought it was awful. I thought it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I mean, the acting was good. The script was good. I felt the same way about Joker. I felt the same way about Saltburn. It wasn't that it was a bad film in isolation, but taken in context, it was awful. Joker was awful because they took a character, a villain from a comic book series who everyone loves, who's charismatic and cool and interesting, and turned him into this miserable, sad, lonely waster who lives with his mum and whinges about the fact that he's not funny because he's literally not funny. And also casts some aspersions on mental illness as well, which I didn't like. But that aside, like just taking that character, all things being equal, it could have been a great movie for me if it had been about anyone else. But obviously they've got the IP to say, oh, well, it's about Joker. So they decided to make this fantastic character, this fantastic villain, played before on screen by Jack Nicholson and by Heath Ledger to just awesome effect, and just turn him into this sad, lonely idiot. With Saltburn, I've spoken about this before as well. They took a trope. This is a film directed by a woman who went to private school, with a cast with nearly everyone who went to private school, except the guy who was playing the working class lad. And spoilers, if anyone wants to watch Saltburn, it turns out that he wasn't really working class. He was just pretending. Because he just wanted their money. He just wanted to kill them all and take their money. Right, spoiler over. And that annoyed me. That really annoyed me. If he had actually been working class, I thought, okay, fair enough. You know, class war. Let's bring it on. But no, he was just pretending. The message being, in the wider context, don't befriend the plebs, rich people, because they'll just kill you all and steal your mansion. Yeah, anyway, so Civil War. The reason why I thought it's one of the worst movies ever made is because of the context that it's been made in. In November this year, over 200 million Americans will be given the chance to vote. Well, 300 million actually, but only 200 million if that will vote. Over 100 million Americans will vote for whether they want a civil war or not. So with that in mind, 6 months down the line, you would think that a responsible director directing a movie specifically about a civil war, specifically in America, would make a movie that would put people off a civil war. And some of you all have seen it and be like, but Graham, I saw that movie and it was shocking and horrible and awful and made Civil War look dreadful. And I'm like, yeah, that's for you. That's for me. We're liberals. We think that, wars are bad to start with. We don't think wars are cool, ever. But I'll tell you who do think war is cool. The MAGA lot. The Spitfire Brigade, the Poppy Wankers. They're the ones going, oh my God, we got to talk about the war all the time. Wasn't the war great? Someone had on their Twitter profile the other day, they had Brexit was the best thing to happen since World War II. I'm like, I would argue it was the worst thing that's happened since World War II. But, you think a war is a good thing. Great. So instead of this war that they go through, so the story is there's these 4 reporters and they're traveling across war-torn America, which is split into factions depending on which state you're in. And they're traveling to Washington, D.C. to do an interview with the president. I hope I'm not giving any spoilers away by saying that. And they meet, they go from one encounter to another along the way. And it's very much like a zombie film in that you meet someone with a gun, you don't know whether to trust them or not because they've got a gun. And then horrible things happen. And there's a bit where the young reporter in it goes, oh, that was awful seeing, my friends executed in front of me or whatever. It's not quite what happens, but, but I've never felt so alive. And, the audience in Question Time last night, who were like this, oh, that was me. That was me in the cinema. Oh. So, what's this got to do with Congo, Graham? What's this got to do with Chris Phillips? Well, I'm glad you asked. The reason I didn't like the movie is because it was an unrealistic depiction of a civil war. And do you know what? It had been made 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. I wouldn't have given it too much of a toss, really. But right now, where America looks like it's very much gearing up for a civil war, the fact that the director decided to make it look sexy and exciting and exhilarating, and it's an opportunity for Americans with their guns to just shoot people they don't like. Do you think the MAGA lot are going to watch that and go, oh God, that looks awful? No, they're going to watch it and go, wow, that looks cool. Yeah, I'm up for that. But here's the reality, and here's the reality that the people of Democratic Republic of Congo know. Because there were 2 Congolese wars, the end of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. There were 2 wars. There was about 500,000 people killed violently in the war. But that's not the big number. the big number, is the 5.4 million people, 5.4 million people who died of disease and starvation. Because that's what happens in a civil war. Not to mention what was done to women in Eastern DRC. In a war that was, the second one at least, started by, you're going to love this, check notes, Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. So instead of Civil War being a decent film about, people trying to get to Washington, D.C., road trip through war-torn America, instead of making it realistic, they didn't come across anyone who was starving. They didn't come across anyone whose children were dying in their arms because they couldn't get their medication. They didn't come across a family cowering in a basement, waiting for death to come, which is what happens in a civil war. But I talk about the First and Second Congolese Wars. No one's ever heard of them. Some of you might have heard of them. Most people haven't. 6 million people died. 6 million people died 20 years ago. No, 25 years ago now. And hardly anyone knows about it. It wasn't really reported in the Western media. And as a result, we've never really done anything about it. We've never thought, oh God, we need to really think about not doing that again. Making sure that never happens again. Like we did with apartheid, like we did with the Rwandan genocide, which killed 800,000 people in a couple of weeks with machetes. When you got Holocaust deniers going, oh, well, I don't think they could have killed that many people in that space of time. Are you kidding me? You're determined enough. Yeah, you can kill a lot of people, sadly, unfortunately. And then not only does Chris Phillips not know of the First and Second Congolese War, not only does he not know, this is a Tory MP on Question Time defending the Rwanda policy. Not only does he not know that those wars happened, he doesn't know there's fighting going on now. And when asked, what would he do if a refugee from the Democratic Republic of Congo, literally fleeing Rwandan soldiers, gets caught crossing over the channel to the UK, where are they going to get put? Back to Rwanda. Oh, God. The inhumanity of it. It's the stupidity and the inhumanity. And it is this blithe cruelty, this unthinking, I'm right about everything. I don't have to have details of the little people. Oh, I don't have to know that. This guy didn't know that Rwanda and Congo are separate countries. Congo's massive. Well, Rwanda's tiny, by the way. Congo is the second biggest country in Africa. It's huge. It's not the size of Western Europe. He didn't know they were separate countries. As someone who has been to the Democratic Republic of Congo and spent a week in Kinshasa, someone who's been to Rwanda, been to Kigali, you can't explain to you how much this pains me on a moral level, obviously, but also on just a geographical level. It's like someone not knowing the capital of France when they live in France. Don't forget, the Rwanda policy has been the flagship policy of the Tories for the last 2 years. It's been the one thing that they have banged on about more than anything else. Rwanda, Rwanda, Rwanda. I'm sick of hearing the name of the country. A country whose name has now been tarnished forever because everyone's just going to associate it with refugees for the rest of time. Thanks, British government, say the tourist board of Rwanda. But then again, the amount of money we're given to Rwanda has actually improved their economy by between 5 and 10%. Sorry, their GDP by about 5. They only make about 11 billion a year in their GDP, and a huge chunk of that has now come from the British government. Well, no, it's come from you as a taxpayer to send 200 refugees over to Rwanda, maybe, perhaps, as a deterrent, which literally no one thinks will work. I mean, even the bollock-faced foghorn of ignorance himself, Nigel Farage, even he thinks it won't work. But this is what we're dealing with. This is the modern Tory party. And this is why, in the next election, they can't just be beaten. They need to be annihilated. Absolutely 100% taken out. Anyway, right, so in summary, too long didn't watch. Civil wars are awful, and Tories are even more awful, arguably. Right, okay, so I'm going to jump into your messages now. Sky is saying Rwanda plan is deterrent as people are flooding into Ireland from Northern Ireland as they don't want to go to Rwanda. Jez Hunt, the first and second Congolese wars, they were in Rwanda, weren't they? Or the country, or Kigali. I was taught geography by Tories. Are they near Mordor? Yeah. They were in Congo, but the second one in particular involved belligerents from all over the area. So Uganda was involved, Burundi was involved, Rwanda was definitely involved. It was a slaughter. I mean, it really, led to the end of the Congolese civil war. The Angolan civil war, though, which is another country in Africa. There's 54 countries in Africa, 55 if you include Western Sahara. I'll list them all if you want me to. And the capital of the UK is Moscow, if memory serves. Well, yeah, might as well be. Londonigrad, isn't it? Londonigrad. The next election is for the soul of the country, says Justin. You're absolutely right, Justin. Can't disagree. Duke Vengeance says, yeah, Graham, but Labour, ... can't be asked to do the joke. Well, Labour are going to bring in nationalised rail, which is fantastic. I mean, obviously, there's people out there going, but it's not perfect, but it's not going to include freight services. I'm like, it's not going to bring down prices. I'm like, I don't care. Here's the thing, right? Here's just a really simple, logical reason why we need nationalised rail. Whenever I go anywhere, usually, that doesn't involve Scotland, I will be travelling through York, because I live in Durham, right? So usually I've got to take the train to York, maybe change at York if I'm on the East Coast Main Line, and then go across the Transpennine. But there's the Transpennine Express that serves that. There's Northern Train that serves York. There is the LNER, GWR. There's Cross Country. There's at least there's loads. I think there's about a dozen different train operators that service that station. And so here's the problem, right? The train pulls into the station, and they're supposed to switch drivers, but the driver hasn't turned up. The driver of the train. Actually, driver's probably a bad example because there are different types of train and they might not know how to drive every single type of train. So let's just say it's a conductor. The conductor, the person who goes up and down the train and scans everyone's ticket, hasn't turned up. So the train then sits in the station while they wait to try and find someone else who can be the conductor on that train. Now, if it was nationalised, they could literally take someone from another train. They could literally take someone from the station, from any other train. They could be on. They could say, "Oh, we'll swap. We'll do something." There'll be people living in York who work for the railway service, the Great British Rail, and they'll know how to be a conductor. So you can give them a call and say, "Can you get to the station in the next 5-10 minutes?" Yes, okay. I'll put your shoes on, run off to the station, get there. But you can't do that when you have several different train operating companies, and each conductor, train company has its own conductors, because they've signed a contract with GWR or with LNER or with Cross Country or with Transpennine Express or with Northern. They've signed a contract with that company. They can't work for another company. So instead of having a pool of maybe a few dozen people who could do that job who happen to live in York, you've got a pool of like one or maybe two. So what's that train do? It sits in the station, clogging up platform space and then ruining the journeys for everybody else who needs to go through the station and the people on the train. And it's one of the reasons why the trains are always so late and so inefficient. It's because of staff shortages caused by the fact there's like 17 different train operators using the same station, but you can't interchange train staff because they all work for different companies. It's the maddest thing I could possibly imagine. And that's why it's a bad idea. Thank you very much to Johnny Copperhead, who's just slid in there with a massive super chat of 20 quid. Thank you very much, Johnny. Really appreciate that. It's really generous. Thank you. Chris Phelps, the guy who always seems to be sent out to get a kicking in the media. I fondly remember the dumb grin on his stupid face when Mick Lynch called him a liar a dozen times to his face on live TV. Yeah, well, he is a liar. I mean, he's an idiot as well, which is par for the course with the Tories because they just don't care. They just don't care about suffering. They don't care about anything. They don't care about anyone. Talking of not caring, there was a woman on Sky News last night. Did you see? There was a little panel show thing on Sky News, and a woman in the audience. She was from Grimsby. She was like, I want to get out of Grimsby. Well, she didn't quite talk like that. And she was in her 20s, and she voted the Tories. And she started off by saying that the worst thing, Ronald Reagan was right. And I'm like, oh, God. So she voted Tory. Ronald Reagan was right. And what was Ronald Reagan right about? Trickle-down economics? You live in Grimsby and you hate it. Okay, but tell me more. Apparently the most terrifying words are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Okay, cool. Maybe Maximilian's done a video on this, or he will do a video on it today. Look out for it. But basically, she then goes on to whinge about the fact that the government doesn't do anything to help the people of Grimsby. And I'm like, but you just said you don't want help. You just literally said the worst thing, the most terrifying thing in the world. More terrifying, I assume, than solar panels in fields, which is the most terrifying, the most awful thing in the world to Liz Truss. Even worse than that, the worst thing is the government asking, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. Don't want that. Don't want any help. Why won't they help us? Why won't they? And I'm sitting there going, my God, cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug. Make up your mind. Do you want help or do you not want help? Do you want the government to actually improve people's lives, or do you not? Or do you want them not to improve people's lives? It's up to you. It's up to you. But you have to vote on that. All right? And they go, Labour aren't any better. And it's like, well, they're not in power. And we look at Labour councils, and the central funding for councils has been stripped to the bone. That's why Tory councils are going bankrupt as well as Labour ones. That's why council tax is going up. Council tax is going up because central government is incompetent and inept and cruel. And this is why the Tory party needs destroying. Right, I'm going to jump into the chat before going over to the papers. Don't really want to go to the papers, but let's do it. That's a mood, says Gualafame Ray. Katrina says that another company's conductor is probably on that train trying to get work themselves. Indeed. Jess says, Philps has a mockery fetish. Oh my God. Wow. Gallifrey Man says, I remember who it was. Some shadow justice minister supports JK's bile from what I've heard. Yeah, that was to do with the it's one of the reasons why we didn't do an intersection this week, because everyone in the trans community is very, very, very upset with Labour at the moment, and I completely understand why. Just the best policy is just to shut it down. Don't say, oh yeah, I agree with J.K. Rowling. She's a very brave woman. She's a very brave billionaire who sits in a castle, picking on people for being different to her. Saying, oh, you can't expect black people to be innocent, can you? Hey, wink, wink. Oh, did I say black people? I meant trans people. The same thing, really, if you think about it. Or saying, oh yeah, trans people can't understand what it's like to be a woman. And there's loads of trans men saying, I grew up as a woman and I'm not anymore, but I know what it's like to be a woman. Okay, are we included in this? Oh no, we just ignore trans men. They don't really exist as you think about it, even though trans men actually outnumber trans women. True story. Right, Stephanie. Stephanie. Talking of trans people, Stephanie Wilson. No, Stephen Wallace. Thank you very much. £5 super chat. Under the Tories, I'm here to help means I'm here to take your money. I'm here to help myself. There you go. That's the famous Tory line. I'm here to help myself. Christopher Bowles says Grimsby equal fishing equal Brexit trade blocks. Well, she actually admitted that the fishing industry is dead in this bit. In this bit on this, I think it was Sophie Ridge, was it presenting it? I think it was Sky. I might be wrong. It might be on Channel 4, but it was one of those shows where they go and ask the audience what they think. Speak your brains, and they sometimes do. Is it even going to be safe for me to do a reaction video to BBC Question Time last night? Yeah. I think you'd be pretty safe to do that. JK's attitude is really weird, given the book she wrote about being impressed for who you are. And people who are obsessed with purity and like the pure bloods are the important ones, not these people who come, Johnny come latelys. They can't understand what it's like to be a woman. How can you understand what it's like to be a woman if you don't have periods? Well, some women don't have periods. They don't, How could you understand what it's like to be a woman unless you have a baby? Some women can't have babies. It's one of those things, isn't it? Just doesn't stop them being a woman. Doesn't make them less of a woman. I mean, is this a thing now? Is going to be a gatekeeper for like, well, you can't be a woman unless you've got breasts. Well, some women don't have breasts. And maybe they have gender affirmation surgery to make it feel like they're more feminine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But. Anyway, oh wow, David Falkner, thank you very much to David for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. That's really kind, thank you. Things will only get better, Graham. Fingers crossed. And then an absolutely massive pink super chat from Plum Duff. Thank you so much. 50 quid super chat. Thank you. Money comes and goes, but this site and all you good people keep me sane, and there's no money for that. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Plum Duff. You help keep me sane, because without your generosity and the generosity of the other people who give super chats or members or just watch the shows, I mean, like, if you watch the stuff on this channel, if you share the stuff on this channel, it all filters down. I mean, trickles down really, but the viewer figures are important. The subscribers are important. As well. So thank you to everyone watching this. I really appreciate it. You keep me sane. I'd be going mad if I couldn't do this. I'd just be howling at the moon. All this talk of Grimsby is making me fancy salmon for tea. That's fair enough. Isn't that Scotland though? Leslie says hi from Scotland. Hello Scotland, in the chat there. Sarah says literally going for gender surgery next month. I wonder what next barrier will be from them. Sarah, great, and all the best with that. And they just want to. They keep moving the goalposts. That's like, oh no, but this is you can't say. And every time everyone puts the hand up and say, oh, there's an exclusion to that. The most outrageous one a few weeks ago was Richard Dawkins. I've probably spoken about this before, but guy who used to be seen as fairly sensible, if a little bit caustic when talking about religion, but. He said the number of people who are born XXY or XY or different XY, different XXY or XYY, or the different chromosomes that can happen is so small. The number of people you can ignore it, and I'm looking at that going, that is just not a scientific way of looking at anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how many Tory MPs are there? About 300, right? How many are there in the world? Well, 300 out of, 8 billion. Well, that's not many, is it? That's hardly any, It's not statistically significant. So we could just, I don't know, claim they don't exist. Can we just say that now? Scientifically, according to Richard Dawkins, the Tory party doesn't exist. Brilliant. Bring on the revolution. Oh my God. Alec, thank you very much. Alex Green for the super chat. Hi Graham, you keep me sane too. Oh, this is like, it's lovely this, because it's like a two-way thing. And I've got some really good news. You probably already heard it, but Lawrence Fox, who we hate, has been served with a court order to pay £180,000 to two people he claimed were sex offenders on the with no evidence whatsoever, just because they were gay. Because in this sick little twisted puppy's mind, Lawrence Fox, he honestly believes that gay people are the same as paedophiles, because he's horrible. And now he's been served with this notice. He's got to pay this money, and he's also got to pay for the legal fees of both his lawyers and the lawyers of the two people who are suing him. And so, hopefully, according to my legal friends, it could be 5 times the amount that he ends up having to pay. The best part of £1 million for tweeting. Hopefully he'll shut up and go away now, but I doubt it. I wrote to him today on Twitter. I don't think he'll read it, but I said, the fact that when you cark it, people are going to celebrate and dance on your grave is horrific to your children. Why would you put your kids through that? It's cruelty. To me, that is cruelty beyond measure. And I'll say the same thing to Julia Hartless-Brewer or Boris Johnson or Donald Trump. Well, I don't think his kids will care. They're all as crazy as he is. But yeah, it's a cruelty, isn't it? Like, while you're mourning, people are partying. God, the party we're going to have when Murdoch goes, the party, people, the party. Just the fact that a guy born 100 years ago, thousands of miles away, who's never been British, never paid tax in this country, never been a British citizen, never really lived in this country, that man has so much power over the everyday lives of the people of Britain. It's a disgrace. It's like people go on about how they don't want people coming from other countries and changing our culture. Yeah, he didn't have to come. He just shot missiles, from where he was. Missiles like the Sun, the Times, Talk TV, Sky News. You're just shooting these missiles over to us, which make people stupid and lazy. Can't be arsed thinking for myself anymore. That part of my brain, it's just too much like hard work, thinking for myself. I'll just be told what to think by the papers, by the bloody newspapers. And here they are, very, very quickly, because I'm over time. MI5 checks academics to curb threat from China. Thieves hit 1,000 shops 1,000 times a day. This is under Tory Britain. Somehow this is going to be Labour's fault, but actually it's because the Tories have cut the number of experienced police officers to the bone and replaced them with idiots who haven't been vetted properly. A violent, hard partying drug user, Beatrice doomed, bad boy X. So there you go. That's what rich people do. When they get money, they spend it on drugs. So don't give money to rich people because they'll only spend it on drugs. That's the message that you need to keep in mind. Turnips, Baldrick's cunning plan to save the planet. Oh, God, what is the star going? Revolutionary jab offers hope of cancer cure, which is good. A game-changing cancer vaccine that is being tested offers hope for cure for the disease. This is bad reporting. This is bad science from the Daily Express because I really doubt it's going to be for every type of cancer, every single organ of your body, everywhere the cells divide in your body can become cancerous. And there are different types of cancer, some of which are really fast, really aggressive, will kill you really fast, some of which you can actually live with. Like, it won't kill you, it will never kill you. You can live with it for the rest of your life. And everything in between. There are literally probably hundreds, maybe thousands of different types of cancer. We've already got a jab against cervical cancer, which is nearly 100% effective, which stops kids getting the human papillomavirus. And the effectiveness of that is off the charts. And from a personal point of view, I have a particular take on vaccines, which is this: I got vaccinated against everything you could get vaccinated for before I embarked on my journey to every country in the world. Yellow fever, dengue fever, Japanese encephalitis, everything. And I didn't get ill for 4 years, traveling along dirt tracks in Africa, eating food that was not clean. Just, I didn't get ill. I had some magical force field around me somehow. That meant I didn't get cholera. I didn't get diphtheria. I didn't even get anemic dysentery, which is more luck than anything else. But the point is that I was protected. Also, at the same time, I've mentioned a few times that my partner's deaf. The reason she's deaf is she got measles as a kid. She couldn't be vaccinated, so relied on herd immunity. 1980s, people didn't get their kids vaccinated the same rate as they do today. Today it's gone down a bit, but as a result, she was left permanently deaf, profoundly deaf, and it affects everything in her life. We were just talking then about the fact that anyone else, while they're in a meeting, can multitask. You need to answer emails while you're in a meeting, you can do that. Someone else is talking, you can just keep a little bit of an ear out. If it's not regarding you, it's not a question directed towards you, you can be getting on with somebody else. Can't do that. If you're deaf, you've got to read the subtitles and work out what the subtitles mean, because sometimes the subtitles aren't right. So, bit crap. And also, when it comes to cervical cancer, my sister, Nikki, died of cervical cancer. And she was a bit older than me. If we had had the HPV vaccination back when she was a little girl, she'll still be with us. I honestly believe that. So, I don't have much time for anti-vaxxers at the best of times. But, any kind of movement towards the curtailing of cancer, one of the few diseases that we still struggle with on a major level, because it's your cells. Your body doesn't reject it like it does a virus. doesn't fight against it like a virus because it's you. It's your own cells that are divided and something's gone wrong. They've cocked up, but your body doesn't go, oh, I need to fight that, because it just goes, oh, well, that's right. It's got the right. It's got the VIP pass. It's, it's scanned. The code scans correctly. It's got the correct voter ID. I'll allow that to continue to grow, and that's where the problem lies. So it's an incredibly complex disease, and I don't think there's ever going to be a one-stop cure-all for it, a panacea. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction. But again, bad reporting there in the Daily Express, giving people hope that it's going to cure all cancers. Where I guarantee, I haven't read it, but I guarantee you'll dig down into it and it won't be for all cancers. It'll be for certain cancers. Poor Larry Fox from Johnny Copperhead. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. That's really generous. Thank you. And also, let's have a laugh at Lawrence Fox. Loser Fox. He calls himself Loser Fox. I call him loser. This is very clever, that, isn't it? No. Yusuf in peril, as Greens say they will back no confidence motion. This is a sad story from Scotland, where it looks like the Greens and the SNP power sharing agreement is breaking down, which isn't good because they're both progressive parties. And I want them to, I don't have a problem with them being in power, even though I'm Labour, you see, because that's the way it works. I'm happy for other progressive parties to, share a piece of the pie, because I want proportional representation. To get that, we need to tactically vote. So, I'm not going to be running around going, no, you have to vote Labour. Oh, I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm going to do that. Save Our Cup replays. This is from the Mirror campaign, because, that's important. World's first jab to stop skin cancer brings hope for patients. Better reporting in the eye there. So, obviously, it's about skin cancer. Didn't know that till I read it, but I just read between the lines on the old Express there. And Rwanda threat is pouring migrants into Ireland. This is from the Daily Telegraph. So how's that helping? How is that? It's not deterring people coming over in boats. It's just making people go into Ireland. It's going to deteriorate our relations with Ireland. And then BHP's £30 billion offer for Anglo Props backlash from South Africa and investors. BHP, that's thingy, what's it called? The mining company, mining corporation, I think, who are not very nice, I think. Prospect of a bidding war, I don't really care. And also, there's a story about this rape conviction for Harvey Weinstein that's been overturned. That's in the Metro there. Again, not quite the whole story. He's still going to be in jail for another assault that he committed, but he's not going to be done for that. There's one of them that they've thought, oh, well, they tried to take into account all the things he'd done into the case. And yes, because it shows a history of committing this kind of crime. So yes, it was very relevant, but they said, oh no, it was irrelevant, so it's a mistrial, and therefore one of his rape convictions has been quashed, but he's still in jail, and hopefully he will spend the rest of his life there, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Right, anyway, so I'm going to go now. Thank you so much. We'll be back at 1:00, me and Phil, to give a big roundup of the week's events with the agenda, so please join us for that. We're going to try and fix Phil's microphone problems before we get started. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the chat. My finger disappeared there. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for the super chats, especially. And big thanks to Johnny Copperhead and to especially Plum Duff for those magnificent super chats. Wow, really, really, really appreciate that. And until I see you all again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.